today I'm going to show you a really cool technique that will help you use up maybe some cardboard that you have lying around your house. If you don't have cardboard, maybe see if any of your neighbors have some cardboard that you could use. But cardboard is really cool. Once it gets wet, it separates into 3 different parts and you can use each one of those. And as long as it's wet, you kind of wrap it around an object. And the object needs to be hard, something like not furry. And then you let it dry and you take it off with rubber bands, or you hold it on there with rubber bands. After it's dry, take it off of that object, and then it just goes right back into that shape. Here's a big example that I did, a T-Rex. You kind of have to tape them back together, and the tape I used for this guy, not strong. So he's not staying together very well, but he could if I spend a little more time on him. And this also, if you're gonna do something big like this, you're gonna have a bunch of different pieces that you have to fit together like a puzzle. And you might like doing that and you might not like doing that. So it just depends on you if you're up for the challenge. I would recommend starting with something simple like a box you make out of Legos, or maybe you could change the shape a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting. This was a Mr. Potato Head. This is just 2 pieces. This is only 3 pieces, and I haven't taken the cardboard off yet, but I will after this so you can see how to do it. So if you don't understand how to do it, I will show you at the very end. So let's get started. If you are molding something big, you might need to put your cardboard in water in like a sink, or I'm using a big bowl, but you could just use something big enough that it'll fit that cardboard in it, and you can let it soak. It really only needs to soak for a few minutes. And let's get started. After you've gathered some of your supplies, maybe you've made like a Lego thing like this, or maybe you want to make a cast of something like this. Whatever it is you want to make, I'm going to show you how to do it. Something like this T-Rex that I'm going to take the cardboard off of, this is a little bit harder because you have to use a lot more pieces of cardboard. So when you take them off, it's like a puzzle and you have to put them all back together. But things like this, like these Legos, they're a little bit easier, or there's something hidden under this one. You'll have to find out what that is. Soon it will be revealed. All right, so let's get started. Grab some pieces of cardboard and make sure you have some water, and we're just gonna put it in the water. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna start to separate all of these pieces from each other. If you don't have a big bowl, you could just do this in the sink. Honestly, I've done this in a bathtub before because I made a cardboard sculpture of a chair. So you can make humongous sculptures using this method. Because when cardboard is wet, you can move it around, but once it's dry, it's hard again, it's stiff. So it retains the shape that whatever shape you put it in when it's wet, it will stay that same shape when it's dry. So just kind of move it around. You have to be careful because it can tear. And then once it gets wet enough, it's going to separate usually into 3 different parts. There's the front and the back part, and then there's like this little bumpy, let's move it like this bumpy stuff that's in it right here. So this needs to be a little bit wet. I would just grab some pieces and just put them in there actually. This one is gonna be hard to fit. Maybe I'll just fold it over. All right, let's grab this piece we put in first. So you wanna soak it so it gets wet enough that it's pretty easy to take it apart, like this. See how easy that is? And then once you get this piece, it's wet and you can move it around. It's not like wrapping paper, but pretty close. And then you can start putting it onto your object. And you can fold it kind of like wrapping paper to get it to stay on. Then we need to do one more layer around this one. So let's grab another piece. And you can use this middle part too. I think I used the middle part to do this one. You can tell because it's kind of bumpy. Oh, it's tearing a little bit, but that's okay. We have plenty of pieces in here, so. Maybe it's just I didn't let it get quite wet enough to kind of tear that piece off. And let's figure out how big. Let's just get a piece that goes around like this. You can use scissors also if you want to cut your cardboard into smaller pieces as you're sculpting with it or molding. So maybe some of you have had a cast before. That is what we're making right now. It's a cast. So it's basically making the shape of whatever is underneath it, which is what a cast is. And then let's bring this side up and then this side up. So you're just trying to cover whatever object it is that you are creating a cast of. You're just trying to mold it. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. And once you get the cardboard covering it, you grab your rubber band or rubber bands, and you just want to secure it in a few different spots. Like look at how many I had to add to this guy. You need probably for something like this at least 2, but I might put one around these edges. Get a bigger one. Makes like a nice sound. So you just basically cover it and then you let it dry overnight, or you can put it outside in the sun. So after you cover it with your cardboard and your rubber bands, you just let it dry. Take the rubber bands off. You can paint it if you want, let it dry. Then remove the cardboard from your object. You might have to cut it off in some cases, but in other cases you'll probably be able just to pull it off. Just try to remember the way that you put it on, and that's how you'll get it off. And then you have your cardboard mold of whatever object you want. And these have been outside in the sun for, I don't know, they were out there for maybe 6 hours. And look, they're already so dry. So we'll move this aside. Let me dry this off, and then I want to show you after it's dry what you want to do. You're going to take off your rubber bands. And if you want to paint it, you probably want to paint it while it's still on that object. So I would paint it, let it dry, and then take the cardboard off. So you could paint this. And then you've got to try to figure out how you got it on there. And you have to try to get it off and then put it back together. Let's see. Usually there's a clue. It's these pieces that are wrapped around. Oh, there we go. So we have this piece. Square pieces are going to be a lot easier, but this will still work. You could even cut it off almost like a cast and then just add a little bit of glue. So you can slide that object out. You don't want to use anything furry. And then carefully, oh, there's still a piece left. Then carefully, you want to fit it back together. So you could add tape to put it together, glue. There's different ways to attach it, but it should go back to the same shape. This one's going to be a little bit easier. This will be more like your box to take off and put back together. What do you think is under this? What could it be? You may have seen this shape before. Just looks a little different, covered in cardboard. There's a little clue. That color might have given it away. I'm going to use my scissors to just cut this a little bit. Just be careful. You don't want to like scratch whatever you molded. Oh, we're almost there. I think we just need to open this top piece and then you'll see what this is. A Mr. Potato Head without a face. So, you can see, you could just kind of put it back together with tape, but it retains the shape pretty well even after you've taken it off of the object. Now let's say, I brought this out for a reason. Let's say you want to make a mold of something like this. This is bigger than these Legos. maybe a little bit more complicated, maybe. But you basically do the same thing with this that we did with these other objects. So this big piece, oh, only part of it got wet. That's okay. We'll try using these other pieces. So take your cardboard apart. There should be 3 pieces. This side is still dry, so I'm just gonna cut these wet ones off. So you can take these pieces, place it over, and you wanna make sure you get that shape. Like if you want these eyes to still be sunken in like this, you just kind of press it. So see how I'm just kind of pressing it into those shapes? And later, you know, maybe you could cut the eyes out. I would just probably keep them solid, and then after it was dry, I would cut the eyes out. Oh! And you could add rubber bands at any stage, but it's easiest to add them at the very end. This middle piece is going to be a little bit more flexible. So see how it just kind of wraps around it? And then you just keep covering it with those pieces and adding rubber bands to kind of keep it in shape. Like if I was having a hard time right now and it kept coming off, I would probably just grab a rubber band and hook it around this piece right here, maybe even all the way across to that piece on the other side. Because then it's gonna hold this, and I'm still getting these cool bones that are over the eyes, but I'm not gonna lose that shape. So that is one thing you can do. And again, with something like this, I would definitely cut the eyes out after. So you'd need to mold this whole thing. If you wanted to mold a separate bottom piece, you probably could. I would just detach this and mold it, and then, yeah. That's a little advanced, but you could do it. All right, I hope that worked out really well for you and that you enjoyed using cardboard to make something. This was a little bit harder to make than a box, but it was really fun to make. What you want to make sure you do is, let me show you really quick. I have this example of this velociraptor head that I made. So you want to take your rubber bands off. Just in case you didn't quite understand this in the video, take off the rubber bands, and then I'm just kind of unfolding it on these edges, and then kind of find your very last piece you want to take off first. And that would be this piece around it. Oh, it's okay if it rips, just tape it together. So here's the bottom jaw. Oh, and the top. Ah, I didn't even show you. Just carefully pull it off of that cool mask. And then you're gonna put it back together. And you can use tape to put it together, but see how it holds? It really holds its shape really, really well. So cardboard is a great thing to sculpt out of. A lot of people just don't know about it. Don't use packing tape though. That did not stick very well. I would use like maybe electric tape, or maybe you could even use some kind of glue that will hold it together better than the tape that I used. But I hope you enjoy this project and you like sculpting with cardboard. I just think it's really fun to use things that aren't the normal thing to use. And this is creating a cast, which is what I did when I worked in bronze. So to make a bronze sculpture, the artist sculpts it first out of oil-based clay, which is really soft, and then they make a mold out of it with plaster. So something really hard, then they actually take it off of the sculpture and pour wax inside of that new shell. So it'd be like they pour wax inside of this, and then they dip the wax into like a concrete mixture and let that dry, melt the wax out, harden that concrete now that looks like a shell again, and then they pour the bronze into it, crack the shell off, and then you have this beautiful sculpture. That probably needs to be welded together, but it looks really awesome. So anyway, that's another application of casting that might be a little bit more advanced than what you were looking for today, but I hope you enjoyed the project. Now what I want you to do is try to make something bigger with cardboard. And use bigger sheets. If you're doing a bigger object, you probably need bigger sheets of cardboard, which means you probably need to get it wet inside of a tub or something like that. So make sure you have permission and that you have a towel ready, because you're gonna get water all over the place probably. And if you don't have rubber bands, you could use string or something like that. So thank you so much for joining me during this project. Have fun and have a wonderful day today.